This is the Stephen Mansfield Podcast.
Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast, the podcast where we look at our times through the lens of faith and leadership, character and history. I'm Stephen Mansfield. It is great to have you here with me. I want to talk to you about the fact that as I record this in March of 2026, we are about to hit the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence as a nation. And of course, that means we'll be hitting a lot of other anniversaries coming up. The victory in the American Revolution and a new Constitution being ratified. And those things will all be coming in the years to come. But they begin basically with our birth as a nation, which happened loosely July 4th, 1776. And as I record this in 2026, we are 250 years down the road. Now, I am recording this entire podcast to make a simple request of you regarding that anniversary. And what I want to ask you to do is to read the Declaration of Independence. Now, I'm very aware of trends in teaching history, and I know that the original documents of our founding are not very much urged in schools these days. So it's very possible that a lot of you listening have never actually read the Declaration of Independence. Now, what I wish I could do is give you a 100-book reading list of books to read about our awesome founding and the brave battles and the warriors and the great debates in Congress and at the convention and what it took to produce a Constitution and what it took to produce the Articles of Confederation and what it took, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I got to tell you, I'm not cynical, but that's not what I'm asking of you. I'm not asking anything of that size. I am asking very simply that sometime between now, and I'm recording approximately the back end of March 2026, and July 4th, 2026, just a few months, I'm asking that you will sit down and read the Declaration of Independence. And the reason I want you to do that is I want those words to breathe into your soul. If that's all you do in the 250th anniversary of the birth of our country. I mean, certainly I would like to urge that you travel and go to the great history lands, that you watch the great movies, that you read the great books. And I'm not cynical. I just don't know that you'll have time, don't know that you'll have the interest, don't know that you'll have the ability. But everybody listening to this can at least read the Declaration of Independence. Now, this was a document that was crafted by Jefferson, edited by others, Thomas Jefferson, that is, edited by others, and it is one of the great documents of not just American history, but world history. And I want to comment on it just briefly now so that as you read it, you don't miss certain themes. So let me read to you now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, and then I'm going to comment about some specifics that are in the Declaration, and then, of course, I'll leave you to read it on your own. It says, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. What are they saying? We have enough respect for the nations of the world that when we are going to disband those bonds which have bound us to our mother country, so to speak, we need to express that clearly to the world. And so here they begin. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And then those rights are listed and a case is made. And the final paragraph, I'm jumping all the way to the end of the document, the final paragraph includes these words. I'm actually hyphenating and cutting some stuff out just to let you read it on your own. But at the very end, those who authored this, those who signed it, said, appealing to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Now, I'll drop back in just a moment to talk about the statements that are made specifically about God. But I got to tell you, that final sentence moves me deeply. These men, and they were all men, they wouldn't be today, but they were all men, said that they pledged themselves, they appealed for a blessing upon what they were doing and appealed to God for clarity about the rectitude of their intentions. They said, we appeal to the supreme judge of the world. That's what they called God. And they said they firmly relied on the protection of divine providence, and they pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I got to tell you, those words moved me to think about those, as some have called them, the founding brothers, so to speak. Yeah, we call them founding fathers, but they were men bound together. And they pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor. They trusted God. They appealed to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of their intentions. And what moves me in the Declaration of Independence is that it is in essence a creed. It is in essence a religious statement. Yes, there's a lot of accusation against King George III of England, and there's a lot of, here's why we're separating, because you did this and you did that, you did the other thing. And again, that's what they said in the preamble. We feel we need to justify ourselves and explain ourselves to the nations of the world. But one of my favorite writers, G.K. Chesterton, said in the 1920s that America is the only nation in the world founded on a creed. He also said that America is a nation with the soul of a church. And the reason is that in the Declaration of Independence, there are 7 statements about God. I would suggest you know these, memorize these, especially if you're a person of faith yourself. First of all, the Declaration of Independence, our founding document, says that there is a God. That's very obvious from what I've read. There is a God. There is a God who exists. That's radical in our generation. It wasn't that radical then, but thank God they said it, or we'd be questioning whether they ever believed it. Number 2, that God is the creator of men. It says it very clearly, that God is the creator, not just of men. Obviously, that word is meant to mean mankind. We might say mankind or humankind today. So God is the creator of all people. God is the creator of all people. It says it very clearly in the Declaration, and that was part of the assumption underlying the rights that they were appealing to. That number 3, this God is the God of nature. He's the creator. It specifically mentions nature's God, meaning the God who created nature. So there is a God. He created all men, and he created nature. Now, this is important. This is valuable. This is. I'm very glad they included these things. They might not have, because it might have just been so assumed, as they did in other documents, that they didn't feel like they had to restate it. Number 4, God has embedded laws in nature which human beings ought to discern. This is not specifically stated, but it's assumed in the text that God has made nature, and nature teaches laws. Therefore, God's the maker of those laws. It's very obvious there. I think that's important, that nature teaches us laws, that there is a thing called natural law, that there are certain truths and principles and guidelines of conduct that come from the very nature that God created. By nature, I don't so much mean lions and tigers and bears and rivers and lakes and oceans, but the very nature of men, the very ways of the world. And this is important for us to know, because the 5th principle is that God grants rights to human beings. He grants inalienable rights. Unalienable rights is actually what it says in the text. And this, of course, comes from the fact that God is the giver of those rights. When we fight for civil rights in the United States, we believe we are fighting for God-given rights. These are our natural rights. These are our unalienable rights. These are the rights that God has given men. It says it very clearly in the Declaration. And so it's a noble thing. It's really a divine thing. It's a holy thing to assure the rights of human beings, and that they are taken care of. I'm going a little further than the text here, but they're taken care of as people created in the image of God. Finally, then it says that God is the supreme judge of the world. In other words, we do all these things. We believe in natural rights. We make sure that people's unalienable rights are guaranteed, because there is a judge. There is a supreme judge of the world, and to him we appeal. And his judgments we are concerned about, fearing, seeking to be positive about us. And because of all of that, we believe that God exercises providence. He exercises divine oversight and rulership of the world, and we rely on his protection. We rely on his providence. We rely on his divine rulership and oversight. I imagine when you studied the Declaration of Independence in school, if you did, and I hope you did, but many schools don't even mention it much anymore, that you did not have the 7 God statements or the 7 statements of theology or belief, religious belief, illuminated for you. But I want you to think about what I've said. I want you to go back and read the document and underline these things, because these are the cardinal principles of the American experience. Now, I don't mean to be silly. I don't mean to say to you that you won't read other things or I don't trust you to do it. That's not my point. I'm not trying to be suspicious. I'm not trying to be insulting. I think what's best for me to do is to just ask for one thing between now and July the 4th, 2026. And of course, anytime you might be hearing this in the future, it still pertains. But that you will read the Declaration of Independence. It is not going to take you very long. It's going to take you a small part of an hour. I shouldn't even mention an hour. I mean, most people will read it in about 15, 20 minutes. And let the words soak in. Let the theology of the thing soak in. Read it slowly because it's written in 18th century language. And let the truth of the founding of America sink into your soul. I hope you'll read other books. I hope you'll watch good movies. I hope you'll listen to good podcasts about the American founding. But during the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of the beginning of America, basically, the document that did that, which has inspired rights movements around the world, which has inspired people. I mean, people in Russian prisons have quoted the Declaration of Independence. People right now in Iran are quoting it, because the words are, they will live as long as human beings live. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. What a powerful thing. And that rights come from God, and that those rights ought to be protected. I'm telling you, these are some of the great words of human history. It's going to take you a few minutes to read them. I've commented on them just a little bit. You can certainly read bigger and broader commentaries than what I've offered here. But in the midst of all that's going on in our world and all the upheaval and all the disagreements and all the hassles, and as I record this, having a lot of travel in the next few weeks, I'm very aware of the hellaciousness going on in airports, but certainly that's not the biggest part of what we're dealing with today. In other words, I'm aware of the upheavals in our time. But read some eternal words. Read some words that gave rise to it all. Let's see if we can't reclaim a vision.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator in international media. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and Lincoln's Battle with God. Learn more at stephenmansfield.tv.